Today, we're going to talk about one of the things that I feel lots of people, when they get started, they start to struggle, right? And what I mean by that is there's 4 hinge points in direct messaging conversations. And when you start doing direct messaging conversations, the first hinge point, the one thing that we always want to get right is engagement. So I always talk, has been a lot of time about crafting that first message correctly. Today, we're going to go beyond that and we're going to talk about what happens when somebody actually raises their hand and says, yes, like, yeah, I want to talk to you guys. From that point on, most business owners get a little bit like stuck, don't quite know what to say. A lot of times they go verbal diarrhea and say too much. And so today I'm going to make it really simple. I'm going to give you guys a step-by-step pathway that will allow everybody to accelerate at a tremendous volume here. So here we go. Today, we're going to talk about mastering smooth transitions and a clear call to actions in the DMs. We're week 4 of 4 on converting followers into clients. Next week, we're going to be starting a new 4-week series. This is one of the new content upgrades that Chris and I have been working on, is this ability to now deliver what agency owners and business owners and SaaSpreneurs and all these other people want based on a big list. So this is week 4 of 4 of converting followers into clients. But first, we want to talk about why. When you get this right, so after somebody has initially engaged with you and now they said something back to you and you're like, oh God, what do I do? When you get this part right, when you start to transition and you start to get into the call to action in your DM conversations, a lot of things are going to unlock for you. And here's just a big list. First of all, you're going to get increased engagement. People are actually raising their hand, they're coming back to you, and you say something back to them and you keep the rapport level high. If you lose rapport, you're going to lose the deal, right? We always talk about this thing called the action threshold. That is the point in time of which somebody gives you a credit card and you can take their money, right? Increased engagement can occur and will happen when you start to do good transitional stuff. Secondly, you can get higher conversion rates. The more people you're talking to, the more deals that are going to go over the line. Next, it's going to be an enhanced user experience. What I'm about to share with you is something that's so simple, so powerful, but yet when you share it with other people, they'll be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for and waiting for and hoping, right? You get efficient lead qualification. This is also a process. A DM system is a process of qualifying people further and further into the process, right? I got a little story I'm going to share in a second here. But one of the things that I can always share with you is that the more nurture and the more conversation we have before you even talk about getting to that action threshold, the better, because people will buy faster. Okay. So next, when you master this today, you're going to have a strengthened brand perception. What do I mean by this? Well, when somebody reaches out to you after you sent their initial outreach to them and you start chatting and they feel good about that conversation and it doesn't feel salesy and it feels all those things, the warm fuzzies, as we call them, people are going to remember, oh my gosh, like I loved having a conversation with you. I don't know, there's something about you and Chris, Sean, but it's like, it's different. It feels good, right? That brand reputation is so important. And so we're going to unlock that today. Okay. Next one. We're going to be able to give you a competitive edge. Everybody in the DMs typically does it wrong. Today, I'm going to share the right way to do this. So you're going to get a competitive edge there. And then now this becomes a scalable client acquisition model. Because it's so simple, we can turn up the volume. And then a couple more here. You can tune up your sales cycle and cut the fluff out. That's why we're covering this today. Lastly, you're going to have improved customer insights. You can use what I'm about to share with you in any form or fashion. You can shape it the exact way that you want, and then you can move forward. Now, if this is awesome and you guys want more, this is right. Yes, in the chat roll, just say, what's up? This is awesome. Excited about it. Okay, we're going to keep going. You might be thinking, but Sean, like, man, DMs are too informal. Like, I don't feel like I could do all the stuff that you just shared on that last screen. Well, the answer is yes. Like, informality leads to more deals. Informality means raw. It means authentic. It means real. And when you do it this way, you'll build stronger relationships. Those stronger relationships lead to serious business engagements. So don't ever feel or think or have this myth in your head that DMs are just way too informal, because yes, they are informal, but remember, most deals, if you're at a live event, happen in the hallway in a very informal setting. So we want to recreate that same type of environment, but just doing it in the DMs. And then you're like, okay, Sean, well, okay, the transition part I get, but like when we get to the calls to action, like that always just feels too pushy. Like I hate just being pushy and direct in the messages. Remember this. People are quietly, desperately begging to be led by somebody. And all you need to do is give them the keys to the kingdom. Here's this one next step that you got to do. It's this valuable piece of thing. If you take this step right here in this next little one, and then we jump on a call, guess what? Like, you're going to hit all the goals of the kingdom, and they're all going to be yours, right? And it also enhances the user experience. A lot of times it might be in the DMs before. One of the things I always think about is when people are conversating and try to sell stuff to me, they say, hey, well, let's just do this. And it sounds like a plan. And they never ask a question in the DMs. And my experience is like, oh God, he didn't ask a question. Now this conversation is stalled. What do I got to do here? And so it gets weird. And then I have to go like pursue it if I'm really interested in it, or not pursue it. This is where I think people lose a lot of deals. So if you feel like this is too pushy, or calls to action, just telling people to do something in the DMs, don't feel that way anymore, because when you set it up after what we cover today, you're going to be like, this is amazing. And yes, it's going to enhance the user's experience, the person that you're talking to. So really valuable stuff that we're going to get into. Now, I wanted to start with this particular slide because there was a time in about 2016 that Chris and I got stuck. And how we got stuck and where we got stuck, I think, is fascinating. So what we were doing with our very first software product was we were running paid ads to cold traffic. Okay. So we were running a lot of paid ads. In fact, Chris was spending a lot of money on ads. Melissa and myself were spending $30,000 a month on paid advertising. Okay. And then we were driving everybody into a webinar. And then from the webinar, people were buying stuff from us, which is great. It's an awesome model. It still works today. It's a wonderful one. But what happened during this process is Facebook started changing the landscape. They started changing the rules. And then they looked at our ad accounts and they said, oh, your ad violates all terms and services of our advertising. Sorry, slap. And they gave us the throttle, the red hammer. And like, now you can't advertise anymore. They locked up not only one of our accounts, because we had like 20 ad accounts, they shut down all of them. And so now we're sitting in this place like, oh my God, what do we do? Because we were just totally 100% reliant on paying Facebook money and allowing Facebook to show people that we thought were the right fit our stuff and then come in our direction. And we didn't have any traction after they shut it all down. And we actually saw the revenue plummet, right? Here's what happened. We still made posts and we still had a lot of organic traction. In fact, this post was made, you can see, early January 2017. We had over 330 people put a thumbs up or a heart. We had over 1,500 people comment on the story that I wrote in this post. And we made no sales. January was dry. February was dry. And then come March time, we were looking at our bank account and we were like, oh shit. What do we do, Chris? What do we do, Sean? What do we do, Melissa? Like, how do we climb out of this? And this was really the evolution of, we said, hey, look, we got to go figure out what we can do. And the thing that we started to do is say, well, let's just start working in the DMs and see what can come of this. So this was actually a forced pressure for us to not rely on paid ads anymore. Even though we become experts at it, we couldn't do it anymore. It was taken away from us. And that's something we can't control. But what we can control is direct communication. That's what we can control is DMs. And so that's what we did. Check this out. We learned how to start a conversation, transition, and drop a call to action. Now, in this case, we were driving people into a webinar, and we got really good at breaking the ice after they dropped a comment and then talking about asking a couple of questions and then boom, right into a webinar. And about 6 months later, we ended up by the end of that summer, we had over 150K in profit. And guess what? We did it with no ads, and we only used, the only thing we did was use the DMs. That was it. And so how did we do it? That's the question that I want to share with you today. There's a 3-part framework that I want you guys to catch on to, and then we're going to rip into some Q&A. We need to simplify what we're saying. We need to offer clarity throughout the conversation, and we need to persuade them to take that one next step. In the DMs, we're not trying to sell a product. We're not trying to sell a service. We're not trying to sell anything. We're trying to sell the next step in the process. And if we exchange or change our mind to, I'm not say this for, like most people, they'll drop this massively long message. hey, this is awesome. This is what I do. I'm the man or I'm the woman at this, and buy my stuff. First message sent. That never gets any response. We know that, right? We always talk about doing a compliment first, which is the right thing to do. But then once we get the person to raise their hand, that's where people start to get stuck. So this next 3 steps are for you. Number 1, we're going to talk about how to simplify. Simplifying is easy. All we need to do is say less. And what I'm talking about is if you're looking at your messaging sequences right now, even in your messaging sequences, what we found is the less you say, the faster and the more effective your messaging can get. Don't worry, I'm going to give you step by step here in just a second. And the idea is when we say less, and in fact, this morning I was working with my setter team. I work with them 4 days a week for 1 hour a day. And we go through all the messages that they're going through. And I help do message and response coaching with each and every one of them every single day. I'm in the grind. I still do it. Chris still does it. And what we found is sometimes the messages, when we send like a big message, for whatever reason, Facebook doesn't let it go through, or Instagram doesn't let it go through, or one of the platforms doesn't let it go through. And so what we did this morning was like, hey, let's just say less. And so we took the message we had and we just shortened it and we sent that one. And guess what? That one started getting delivered. We're like, oh, this is cool. It's working. It's simplified. And then it created hyper engagement. More people were responding. It made them beg a little bit more. It made it a little more, mysterious, curious. It was great. So just saying less is always a powerful thing to do. Secondly, we need to offer clarity. And there's a 4-step process to offering clarity. This is what it looks like. We need to create 3 transition questions and then do 1 ask. That's it. Okay. So we have our initial engagement message, which is usually going to be a compliment. People raise their hand. And now we're going to say less in our messages. And we're going to dive into the transition, which is stage 2 or the hinge point. The second hinge point is transition. And then we get into invite and call to action, which is the ask. And this is what it looks like. Create 3 simple 1-line transition questions that qualify the people you're talking to the exact thing that you're doing. Here's 3. Someone says, yeah, like, hey, let's talk. You seem cool. Wait, are you even using DMs to find new clients? This is for us, right? So you're going to have to modify the language just a little bit as you're watching this, but are you using DMs to even find new clients? And then they say yes or no. And if they say yes, guess what? Now we know that they're actually using the vehicle that we teach at scale. Well, do you believe there's room for improvement in the DM system that you're currently using? Because I don't know your system. I don't know what's going on there, but do you believe that there's room for improvement? And when they go, everybody in their world should say, yeah, of course, there's room for improvement for everything, right? And so that's almost a no-brainer, but it also gets that person to continue swimming towards us. And you can ask a very similar question in your messaging. See how simple these are? And then here's what's beautiful about these questions is when you ask them, the person doesn't have to think to answer them. Our job is to take away the thought process in our prospect's mind and lead the witness down the path of when they're going to come by. And then thirdly, it's like, hey, are you open to watching a video and giving feedback on something that might change or improve your DM system? What I've done here is I've completely qualified somebody into, yes, they use DMs. I've gotten them to open up and agree that there's room for improvement, which means there is some pain there. There is a problem. There is something they don't like about the current method or system that they have. And now they're open and they've said, yes, I'm open. And you say, well, would you be open to watching a video or maybe giving some feedback or hopping on a call or what you can ask, whatever here, right? This is it. Transition questions, because when they say yes to this, now we hit them with this, the 1 ask. Now, in this case, this is an invite to a challenge. So if you guys are running a challenge, this might be something you can copy. And what I'm going to share is the pro tip here is just be direct. And they say, are you open to watching a video or something? Hey, since you mentioned it, I'm wondering if you'd like to be part of our challenge we're hosting this week. It's free. And here's what you're going to get. Boom. Set it right there. Is this something you think you can do? That is my ask. This is what we call an invite before a call to action. So it's 3 transition questions, 1 ask, right? And then they're like, yeah, I could do something like that. And now we move into the third part, which is the persuade. This is the call to action. I write this word. Persuasion is a very good thing if it's in the best interest of the person that you're talking to. Everybody puts this negative connotation on the word persuasion. Persuade, only for good, never for evil. That's what I say, right? So when we persuade somebody, all we have to do is if we've set up the conversation the right way, we go, sweet. Now, in this case, this is an invite to a call. Rather go to the challenge. I'm just showing you different examples. Hey, grab a spot here. Very direct. And guess what? It's going to be with me or one of my core team. We have a high volume of calls every day. So we decided to serve more people by creating a rotator, including me, our CEO, and a few of our longtime members of our programs. It's kind of like you get to play roulette with the best of the best on our team. I'll let you know as soon as you pick a spot. And then I could have dropped a question mark like sounds good or makes sense or some sort of little tiny question on the very end of that whole hook there. And then people are going to say, yeah, that's cool. And then they will book a call. And what I've done here is I've been very direct and I've been assertive. And then I've also let them in on a little bit of insider information. So now they feel like they're getting to know me and they'll think, oh, well, this guy seems like he likes gaming. This seems fun. Like the rotator, that's new and it's different. Again, it's different. It's rare. And people light up when you do it right. Okay. And so that's it. Right. So we have the engagement. People raise their hand. They start swimming towards you. 3 transition questions, 1 ask, and then a call to action. And then you're done. What have I done in my messaging sequence here? I never tried to sell any of my products. The only thing I was trying to do is get them to engage, and then I invited them to the next step. I was selling the next step in my process rather than trying to sell my product or service because that's left for a call. And when you do this right, one pro tip, don't ever fear being intrusive. Don't feel like you're intruding in their world or you're being pushy or anything like this. People are desperately, quietly begging to be led by someone. You need to be a leader, not a savior, okay? You are a leader, not a savior, so don't worry about being intrusive. You just got to rap. Got to throw a little comedy in there. What do I mean by rap? Well, number 1, be respectful, right? Don't be a douche. Say the right things, but be direct. Secondly, be assertive. It's okay to be assertive. It's crisp. People like leaders that don't mince words. You don't have to fluff stuff, right? And then lastly, just be personal. As you mentioned, if I mentioned that last message, I told them about that little rotator thing, right? This is a personal thing that I don't even have to tell anybody, but I'm letting them inside. I'm opening the curtain and letting them see behind the stage a little bit. And then say, oh, look, this company seems like they got a cool culture. Like they have, that seems awesome. It's different. It makes them think differently. And when something is different, people remember it. That's the idea. So don't be intrusive, just rap, respect, assert, and be personal. And you got it. Now it's your turn. We got to simplify what you're saying. We got to offer clarity by creating 3 transition questions and 1 ask. And then we just got to have that CTA that's very personal, assertive, and respectful. With that said, go, flow, chat.